What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going over if NIO is a good stock to buy. So if you guys are ready, smash the like button and let's get into it. So first, let's take a look at NIO's stock price over the last couple months. Up until May, they really had no traction. They were trading for only a couple dollars. And then in May, they kind of got a little traction, and then they got all the way up to about $6 to $7. And then in June, they got more traction. And in July, they really rode the wave up and they spiked up at $16. And now since July 13th or so, they've kind of tapered off and they've kind of maintained around $11, $12, $13 or so. So for anybody who isn't aware, NIO is manufactured and headquartered in China, and they basically make electric vehicles, much like Tesla. And they're possibly going to be a competitor with Tesla in the future. I can't claim that with 100% accuracy, but it's possible, especially if they're able to bring vehicles to the US, because right now they're only producing vehicles in Asia. But all of the bonuses that come with NIO really show a lot of potential for their stock in the future. So let's take a look at their website to start off with. So when you go to their website, this is what you're greeted with. They have a very sleek website. And I first want to start off with their vehicles. So let's start off with the EC6. And I'm not sure what order these vehicles are in, which one is more high class or high quality, or which ones cost more. So we'll just start with the EC6. And right away from looking at it, it kind of gives me vibes of like a 2021 Ford Escape, or maybe a Range Rover or something around that, possibly combined with the back end of a Mazda. So here's something else that's very similar to Tesla. If you look, you can see they have the glass roof, and I think all Teslas, or at least the majority of Teslas, have this glass roof that you can see through. And they also have this big touchscreen display, it looks like here. So not only do they have sort of a Tesla vibe, I think they're also trying to create sort of an environment much like Tesla or Apple, where once you've bought their products, you kind of are a customer for life, or at least that's their hope, because they have a lot of benefits, and we'll get into some of those, like their services, which really appeal to your average customer, especially if you've never owned an electric vehicle or something like this before. Here it's showing the aerodynamics of the EC6. Personally, I don't really understand what these numbers mean, like 28 degrees and how this affects anything, but let's just move on to the next thing. So here it kind of looks similar to like a Porsche front end combined with like a Range Rover, like I mentioned. And here you can see their range. They have 615 kilometers, which is the equivalent to about 382 miles. So right there, I think the longest range Tesla is 370 miles. And this is NIO's longest range vehicle, I believe. But still, they're outperforming Tesla in terms of range. And this might come as a surprise because Tesla is kind of known as having very long-range electric vehicles. Here you can see the interior. It's quite sleek. It looks pretty similar to a Tesla, but they have some extra features that Tesla doesn't have, like this odometer, it looks like here, which is possibly a touchscreen. I'm not really sure. But Teslas, they just have everything on this big tablet here in the middle that I'm aware of. Now this is kind of a cool transition here. When you keep scrolling down, it shows the interior, and then it goes to night and shows the lighting as if it was dark out. That's pretty neat. Now here are two features that are pretty cool to NIO. They aren't really state-of-the-art because Tesla pretty much has everything that a vehicle needs, but here they have Nomi, which I've seen in videos. It kind of turns and looks around almost like these are eyes. And it has a fully AMOLED display, and it says it transforms the car from a cold machine to a delightful companion. I'm not so sure if that's supposed to sound like a good thing. To me, it kind of sounds like they would be constantly monitoring you, but maybe that's just me. But I suppose everything now is going digital, and everything is now consumed in technology to make everything easier. But they also have NIO Pilot here. And I'm not sure exactly what NIO Pilot does, but it looks like from the angles and the lighting here, maybe there's some kind of a camera or display or something that looks out and can help with the autonomous driving, because they also have that as well, much like a Tesla. And they also have firmware updates over the air, just like Tesla, which it says is always evolving, always up to date. So I think just by looking at the EC6, that kind of gives you a good idea of how their vehicles are made and what they have in terms of specs and stuff like that. We won't go over the ES8 and the ES6, but the ES8 has 580 kilometers of range, which is the equivalent of about 360 miles. And not only does the ES8 have a range of 360 miles, but they also have a 0 to 60 of about 4.9 seconds. That's not super quick for an electric vehicle, but it's pretty speedy for an SUV. because an SUV compared to a car is much heavier. Also, an electric vehicle overall is much heavier than a normal vehicle. And in comparison to the ES6, the ES6 has 380 miles of range, or 610 kilometers, and a 0 to 60 of 4.7 seconds. So they definitely aren't some super quick Tesla, but they also have a longer range than most Teslas, which could kind of give them an upper hand in marketing. So now let's check out some of the services that they offer, because they don't only have electric vehicles. Like I mentioned, they're trying to make like an environment much like Apple or Tesla. So they have the NIO House, NIO Power, and NIO Service. So taking a look at the NIO House first, I like the idea here, but I'm not so sure how it's going to go down or whether they're already implementing it. But it seems kind of like an exclusive club for only NIO owners. So maybe you're waiting for your car to charge, or you're just on lunch break or something. I'm really not sure how this works, but they have like the lab, library, cafe, joy camp for kids, a gallery, a living room, as well as forums. So I'm not really sure exactly how this works, but it seems kind of like an exclusive thing, and maybe you have to pay extra for it. I'm not really sure. So let's check out NIO Power. Now this is pretty cool. You can see here there's this big box, it looks like, with one of their vehicles inside it. Basically what this big box does is it swaps out your battery in under 3 minutes and gives you a new fully charged battery. So you would drive in and it would position your car and it would swap out the battery and put a new one in. And then you would be good to go and drive away. And I think I read somewhere that this only takes up 3 parking spots. And they're building new battery swap stations every week. So by the end of the year, they'll have made 52 or so new battery swap stations. So you can see here it says they swap the battery in 3 minutes, and power is always 3 kilometers away. I don't really know how that works, whether they have these swap stations every 3 kilometers. But if so, that could be pretty useful for people, especially when you look at Tesla and superchargers in very populated cities. Sometimes Tesla owners end up waiting 20, 30, maybe even an hour to get their Tesla charged. So if this is the case and it only takes 3 minutes and you get a full charge, that's pretty convenient for a lot of people. But here it says scheduled charging, so maybe you have to reserve a spot ahead of time. I'm not really sure. And here's a video of how their battery swap works. If you guys want to check it out, you can just visit their website and go under services. I'm not going to play the video right now, but you guys can check it out, and it shows you exactly how it works. And it says here it's the world's first battery swap technology of its kind. That alone kind of gives NIO an edge over all their competition, because I've never seen anything like this before, and it's very exclusive just to NIO, it seems. Here's another cool feature NIO has, is they have the Power Mobile. And this is basically like these vans that drive around, and if you're stranded somewhere or your car runs out of charge, they'll drive over and they'll hook it up and charge your car. And it says here 10 minutes of charging provides 100 kilometers of range. I think that's probably around 70 miles or so, which could definitely get you to a charge station, unless you're out in the middle of nowhere. And here's what their power chargers look like, similar to like a Tesla supercharger. I think they actually look a little bit more sleek, in my opinion. And before I forget to mention it, they also have a valet service. I think this is similar to like if you were at a fancy restaurant or something and they go and park your car somewhere. But with this valet service, they'll take your car and they'll bring it back fully charged when you're ready to go. To me, that sounds pretty awesome. It's almost like if you gave your car to the valet service and they filled up the tank for you. Obviously, charging an electric vehicle is cheaper than paying for gas, but that's like the equivalent. If you gave your car to the valet service and you came back with a full tank, I'd be pretty happy about that. I don't know about you. But I think that kind of wraps up NIO services and what they have to offer. Now let's get into some of the numbers and the stats about NIO. So here's a pretty recent article that I came across, and it was posted yesterday. And it says that NIO stock will likely trend lower until the company can become profitable. And I think this has a pretty high likelihood of becoming true, because for those who don't know, NIO hasn't been profitable, I don't think at all, in any quarter. I mean, we can just check out here and it says, for example, their latest quarter one reports, and this is talking about 2020, NIO makes negative 7.4% margins on their vehicles. This means with every vehicle they're selling, they're losing money. And they also produced a negative 12.2% gross margin. That doesn't look good for a company that's been around for so long. I mean, they haven't been around forever, but they've been around since 2014. So they have 6 years of history, but they don't have any profit to back it up. So that might concern some investors. But if we scroll down here and we look at this part, it shows some of the numbers for the amount of vehicles they've delivered. So NIO delivered over 3,700 vehicles just in June, which represents almost 180% growth year over year. But if you compare that to May, they delivered just over 3,400, which is almost a 9% gain. And it looks like each month they're delivering slightly more than last month, which is good. But if they're still losing money on each delivered car, that might not be a good thing. So, it's kind of give and take. Do you want to be selling more vehicles and losing more money, or bumping up the stats and actually selling more vehicles? Obviously, selling more vehicles is a good thing, but they're still losing money, which is not good. And they also haven't released quarter two earnings yet, but there was predictions that they would be profitable in quarter two as compared to previous quarters. And I think this would be their first profitable quarter. And that's definitely good news for investors, especially those who believe in NIO long term. Now here's another article on Investor Place, and it shows that they delivered 10,300 vehicles in quarter two, which is up 190% year over year. So they have growth, but they're just not showing the numbers in terms of revenue that investors want to see quite yet. But it seems like they're continually hitting their delivery marks, and it looks like their revenue is forecasted to triple from 2019 to 2021. And it says in 2021 and 2022, forecasts call for $3.1 billion and $5.1 billion in sales. Obviously, they don't know the numbers exactly, and they can't predict them to the T, but it kind of gives you a good idea of the direction they're heading. Something else that kind of shows a good outlook for NIO is that they have received funding from multiple places now. One of their most recent fundings was for $1 billion, and this happened in April from economic development authorities in China. So if the government in China is kind of supporting them, you can almost say that they're a business that shouldn't fail because the government kind of has their back and wants them to succeed. And with $1 billion, they'll definitely be able to expand, which should help their numbers in terms of sales of vehicles as well as their revenue. Because if they can expand and create more factories, they'll be able to produce more vehicles, and they'll also be able to produce more charging stations, more NIO houses. They'll be able to expand everything, which should help the company grow as a whole. Also, with this $1 billion investment, that should definitely help them with producing vehicles themselves. Currently, they outsource their vehicle manufacturing to JAC, which is a pretty reliable manufacturer in China. But just the fact that they're outsourcing everything kind of puts a bad rep on their company. But for sure, if they can start manufacturing everything themselves, they'll definitely be in a pretty good spot. So the last thing I want to take a look at is the volume of NIO. As you can see, they kind of had the curve that you would expect, or the growth. As the stock price sort of snaked its way up, people started investing more, and then when it peaked, you had the peak amount of investors. And they've kind of slightly tapered off the amount of people holding right now. But I would say with the amount of people holding, they likely have a lot of potential in the future here because, 260,000 users on Robinhood holding their stock right now. That's a pretty substantial amount of people who believe in NIO. And they almost are like a mini Tesla company because they have autonomous driving. They update their software over the air just like Tesla does. And they also have the NIO app, which I'm not sure if it works just like Tesla, where with Tesla, I think you can use your phone to open your doors and unlock them and everything, no matter where you are in the world. It just does it over data. I think the Tesla is connected to data or has its own cellular service or something. And I'm not sure if the NIO app works just like that, but they definitely have a lot of things going for them. The only thing that might concern some people is that they're a Chinese company, and there's been some Chinese companies here in the recent past that have kind of lied about their numbers and their growth. So you can't really hold them to the numbers for sure, but once the numbers come out and we see what happens with the stock and the share price and things like that, it might not be such a bad time to invest in NIO. Especially because they peaked over $16 and now they're only down to around $12. If they can become profitable and start producing more vehicles and possibly bring vehicles to the US, there's really no reason why they couldn't skyrocket the share price. And also with their unique battery swap system, that kind of gives them an edge, especially if they did move to the US. There's nothing like that currently here, and that would definitely appeal to many new consumers, especially those who don't have electric vehicles. But I think that's about all I got for you guys today. Let me know in the comments if you own any shares of NIO or if you're planning on buying any in the future. Also, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe and notification bell, And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you back here in the next one. Bye.